All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Soul Stories panel. I'm Sean Payne, project archivist at the Auburn Avenue Research Library on African American history and culture, and I am the creator and moderator of the discussion. So, just a background on this panel. From the start, sneaker culture and street fashion have been long misunderstood and often seen as degenerate or lesser by mainstream audiences. The goal of this conversation is to help combat those narratives by highlighting the work people are doing in the industry through community, education, and preservation. With that being said, I would like to introduce my panelists who I have for this conversation. First, we have Drew Hamill, who is the creator of the East Bay Archive, an Instagram account with over 100,000 followers dedicated to the per, preserving classic East Bay catalogs. Through his work, Drew documents the intersection of sneakers, sports, and cultures from the 1990s and 2000s, keeping a piece of the athletic and cultural history alive for new generations. Next, we have Andre Aku II, who is a multidisciplinary creative, seasoned graphic designer, and educator, and the founder of Unusual Jeans, a streetwear brand rooted in sneaker culture, individuality, and self-bold expression. Known for its storytelling and signature snapbacks, Unusual Jeans celebrates the belief that what makes us different is what makes us powerful. Andre's passion for sneakers and designs shines through his ALFA Club sneaker brand, inspired by his creatively gifted son Asher, who is on the autism spectrum. The name for the ALF Club, which stands for A Love for Art Club, represents a shared creativity, family bond, and ambition that drive both father and son together. Through Unusual Dreams and the ALFA Club and his work in education, Andre continues to bridge design, culture, and community, inspiring the next generation of creators to lead with passion, embrace their uniqueness, and turn their love for art into impact. Next, we have TJ Bennett, who is a co owner and CEO of Soulplay, a culture driven sneaker and streetwear boutique that fuses gaming, anime, comics, and technology with fashion. Soulplay was built to represent kids in the neighborhood who found their tribe through these passions, creating a space where they feel seen, connected, and empowered. TJ is redefining experiential retail by bridging streetwear and gaming while expanding access and awareness within the community. SoPlay has grown into a hub for sneaker enthusiasts, gamers, and innovators, partnering with global brands such as Nike, Adidas, Converse, and Microsoft to shape the future of culture and commerce. Finally, we have D. Wells, who is the founder of Obsessive Sneaker Disorder and Soul Studies Community Academy, the latter being America's first sneaker business and culture academy, teaching students to appreciate, educate, and elevate in an ever evolving footwear industry. In addition to his work as a sneaker educator and anthropologist, D has consulted for companies such as Adidas, Nike, New Balance, Puma, and Reebok. D also co curated the Out the Box Rise of Sneaker Culture exhibition organized by the American Federation of Arts and the Baza Shoe Museum in 2013. This exhibition was a huge success, traveling throughout the North America and Australia from 2013 to 2017. D also wrote for the book of the same title, written by Elizabeth Semmelhack, released in 2015. In 2021, D received the key to the city of Worcester, Massachusetts, recognizing his work in empowering youth and his impact on sneaker culture. Gentlemen, thank you for your time today. I want to get straight into it. Um, let's go with the first question. The first question I want to ask you guys is, what was the thing that first got you into this work of working in the footwear and or fashion industry?
I'll go first. My what got me into this space was I hated my corporate job. I hated my corporate job. I was actually working at Coca-Cola as a sales manager, and again, hated the job, hated the gig, and I realized that corporate conformity wasn't really for me. And when I was an undergrad and grad school, I worked for a sneaker store called Step and Style, which is based in Troy, Alabama. So around the time I'm at the line of saying, I'm done with corporate, they opened up another store in Atlanta, maybe 5 or 6 years later, which is Soul Play. And I asked them how much could you afford to, pay me to do this full time, just pretty much be a store manager. And he shot me a decent number because I was thinking work-life balance at the time, right? Silly me to think work-life balance. But shot me a decent number. I joined the team, and it's been a hell of a journey since then. A great journey, though. A great journey, because when we first started out, man, I was just supply and demand mindset. We had sneakers. There was people out there that wanted to buy sneakers, and that was pretty much it. No mission, no purpose, no vision. It's just your basic commerce, just buy and sell. But that's what started my journey into this space. And of course, we've since evolved 100x since then. So, but yes, that's what started my journey in space.
I'll go next. I think for me, I started this journey very early. I was a Harlem kid, so in New York, I went to the High School of Art and Design, which is a very popular high school. And in my junior year, I was learning silk screening, so learning the whole process of silk screening and everything. So I was taking the opportunity to like learn like how to do designs and everything else. So I started to print up my own little t-shirts here and there, but wasn't really looking at it to be a serious gig until a couple of years later. A friend of mine in the neighborhood asked me to do a logo for the upcoming rap group that they was doing. So I said, okay, cool. And then the next thing you know, I bumped into someone that I consider my mentor, D. Ferg, or Douglas Ferguson, ASAP Ferg's father, who has a print shop. And just in knowing that he was an alumni from my high school, he kind of pulled me under his wing and gave me some advice about how to do fashion and such, since he had his brand Ferg 54. So that kind of built up my knowledge and the understanding, like how to go forth with printing t-shirts and stuff, and how to build a brand. But I officially didn't start my brand until maybe years later, when I was an adult, just trying to find something else where I wasn't similar to you, Anthony, like was getting tired of the hustle and bustle with a job and stuff, and I was still in college. So I actually decided just to print up some shirts, since I had some friends that was working at some popular sneaker boutiques in Harlem, and they tell me, hey, if you could get some shirts, we can put them in. So like Vault, during the time of Vault, as well as a couple other boutiques in Harlem, I just started to make shirts for sneakers at that time, and that was around 2007. And then my friend told me, hey, your shirt's sold out. Like, get another batch and make another batch for some pennies that's coming out that we getting into the store. So that was my way of kind of starting my brand, Unusual Jeans, and really officially making it as a brand, and just continue on from there, doing different things from that point. So I guess like the spark was always there since high school, but I just never really saw my true fruition of what to do when it came to streetwear until later on, when I just felt like I couldn't let it get away from me. So I just let it consume me and follow through with it. And right now it's been probably one of the best blessings I've had as a side thing from being an educator. So that's where it sparked for me.
Drew, we want to go?
Sure. Let's see. I feel like sneakers have always been like an escape for me. So growing up in the 90s, let's see if I can flip my camera around here and show you. Yeah, I just, I had, you can't see because it's blurry, but there we go. I just collected East Bays growing up, and always held on to them. So they were like my study guides in middle school and high school, and just used to flip through these constantly in high school. And my first jobs in high school were at the Athlete's Foot and Foot Locker. So meeting Eakins from Nike and different reps from different shoe companies, I just saw their passion, how much they love sneakers, and just kind of just got wrapped up in it. And it's just always been an escape for me. So always dreamed of working in the industry, and kind of have as a blogger and a writer over the years. I wrote for the Complex Top 25 Sneakers of All Time book. And I've done all sorts of different stuff on social media through the years. But yeah, it all got started thanks to working in the shoe stores and collecting the East Bay catalogs growing up.
Wow. Man, and those East Bay catalogs, those are like the sneaker Bible before
Absolutely.
any book came out. So
Yep.
I certainly like I could tell stories for days growing up in the Virgin Islands and carrying them in my backpack, making sure the corners don't get messed up and then flipping through them. But nonetheless, uh, I guess East Bay Catalog was a prelude to me and the crew creating Soul Collector magazine in 2003. So, I say that was like crazy, a crazy time. But it really began with me with my parents. My mother was a public school teacher, taught, public high school for 33 years. My father was a fireman. Again, I'm growing up in the Virgin Islands. In the Caribbean, we wore school uniforms, so the only way that I can differentiate myself was through my sneakers. That was the thing. So I was that cat that wore my sneakers to school and then would change into my black or brown shoes when the bell rang, because otherwise I'd get in trouble, get detention, and have issues as in tissues, and I'll be paying for it because I couldn't play the sport that I wanted to at the time, be it football season or basketball, whatever. Um, so I really backed into it. I grew up with a Caribbean American restaurant in the family, and that's where I really learned about life. Going from washing dishes to cleaning the toilet to serving people to mixing drinks from the age of 10 all the way through. And the sneaker thing was because my parents were playing tennis. They were playing tennis wearing Adidas Rod Lavers and Stan Smiths. So at the College of the Virgin Islands in St. Thomas. And who knew that sneakers would be that thing for me that eventually I turned into business? I mean, I did mortgage banking, I did the corporate stuff too. I worked in higher ed, I worked at two colleges, universities, thought I was going to be a dean of students, but the one common thread was sneakers and um, how they connect us all. Like we're all connected because of leather, rubber, suede, and these ubiquitous things that we obsess about. That's why I created OSD, because I was that kid. I am that person. Obsessive sneaker disorder is real. I tell people there's no cure for it. So and yeah, like all of our connections through education, through design, through screen printing in Harlem and Georgia and Tennessee, and it's just amazing again what sneakers can do. I tell people I've been able to walk in rooms that I only dreamed of because of a pair of sneakers. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you all. Thank you all
Yeah.
for that. So the next question I have for y'all is like, in what ways have y'all seen like sneakers like create community for folks, or build connections, build bonds? I'm gonna start with you, TJ. I know you do a lot of that with Soul Play, so
Yeah.
if you can expound upon that, what
Yeah.
how you use community in streetwear and fashion and sneakers.
Yeah, man. I ultimately, or we ultimately leverage the love for sneakers to help build and impact the communities that we're in. Like I said, I always tell people we're a community impact store. And just from seeing, just the power that sneakers have, and it really didn't open my eyes because I wasn't the kid that got the shoes. Like I remember kids bringing the East Bay book to the school, but I knew I wasn't going to get anything out of it. So I just I didn't even gravitate towards it, right? But it wasn't until the Travis Scott Retro 4s, the blue ones, the first one, dropped for us. I mean, we were one of the only, and that was his first collab. We were one of the only stores to actually get the shoe. And to see the amount of people that came out, like, so we posted it on a Tuesday, right? That we had the sneaker. People started coming in and camping out that Tuesday night. And I mean, not just coming from the Atlanta area, I'm talking about from the whole East Coast. We had people coming down in literal tents, right? So when I saw that, the light bulb went off in my head, man. And it was in this old Uncle Ben quote: "With great power comes great responsibility." So it's like, okay, this shoe can have this type of impact and make people come out, just to spend, $230, $240 for it. How can we use that power to actually, again, just impact our community, right? And that's when we got into the, mental health, where our nonprofit, which is the Soul Circle Foundation, which focuses on mental health, awareness, gaming, technology, and financial literacy. So, and that was one of the ways that we were able to, draw in community to really get behind it. Because, hey, look, if you want this sneaker, you need to come to this mental health workshop. If you really want the sneaker, you need to come to this financial literacy workshop. And I know a lot of people would think it's like, hey, well, look, the only reason this person came was to get the shoe. But I've noticed the people that you would think felt that way are the ones that are the most impacted by us making that gesture happen. So yeah, I just know it's power in, sneakers, and making sure that, and I made a tweet, years ago and said, look, I really think that we can change our communities that we're in through the power of sneakers. And we just try to do our best every day to make that our reality. And again, Atlanta loves it, because if you take care of your community, the community will take care of you. And that's what we ultimately do. Sneakers for us is the fuel to create that impact. It's not the end all be all. It's the fuel to, continue to push our people, our communities forward. So that's how we, leverage that sneaker love.
Did you want to go? And
I do, because TJ, as you're talking, I remember that moment in time. I mean, people from, I'm in Boston, and I know people that left Boston and road tripped to Georgia, and they didn't get the sneakers. Like, they didn't get them because they were sold out in their size, or the sneakers sold out. But nonetheless, the fact that, like, the camp out, the lines that would happen, right? That was the thing that even I got to see again during the Soul Collector kind of round robin of stuff that we did leading up to Las Vegas in 2006. I always told people, yeah, you're here for the sneakers, but look at the people who are in this line. Look how diverse it is. Look where you've driven from, flown from. I mean, people flying from Paris, flying from parts of Spain to be in an event, and then bringing, again, piece of their culture, piece of who they are. And that, while the sneakers are cool and dope, I have no knock against it. I would say it's always been about the people. And that's the part that people forget. I mean, that's why we have, like, when, Sports Illustrated wrote "Your sneakers are your life." Like, people were getting jacked, killed for what? Their starter jackets and their sneakers. Like, that's been happening. That happened before. It was just the first time it got reported, right? On such a big publication like Sports Illustrated front cover. I mean, we're talking 1990. That was huge. But I had heard stories of cousins in Brooklyn or in Chicago, getting mugged for their, again, starter jackets and sneakers and leather. We're talking, be it a Pele Pele or Averix jacket, whatever it may be, even their Timberland boots. We were talking about Tim's earlier. So I always say it's about the people coming together, and I love what you've done, TJ, and everyone is doing it, but you're very purposeful and strategic with it in terms of mental health, financial literacy, and again, how we could bring people together, create community, and create conversations so that we realize, we have more in common than, than meets the eye. Like, we can actually talk about sneakers, but then we get into a whole lot more stuff. Like, I have people that I consider my sisters and brothers, but we've never met in person. We've only met on the phone or on a computer screen, but it was because of sneakers was the truly the stepping off point.
And let me to just interject just a quick second. When you brought up just the camping out in the line, right after COVID happened, we were one of the first boutiques in the city to do first come, first serve again. May have been a little risky, but we were one of the first ones to do first come, first serve. And that was one of the biggest things that they said is like, hey, look, I didn't get the shoe, but I was just happy to be back in the line and have that experience and talking to friends and meeting new people. So yeah, man, that first come, first serve and lineups is amazing.
For me, I think well, I use sneakers a lot when it comes to me being an educator. This is my 16th year teaching, and this is my first year teaching in another state outside of New York. And when I first started teaching, I didn't know where to start. But one thing that the kids remember is that, yo, you always had some fresh kicks on your feet. So what I started to look at was like, okay, it's a common interest there. you know, because like being an educator, especially a new educator, you always try to figure out how to make connections to students, how to get students to take ownership into whatever the work is that you're trying to get them to do. And I'm a design teacher, so I'm teaching them Photoshop and such. So what best way is to show them the steps of putting your designs on a sneaker that you really like. So that was one of the first projects that I showed my students, was like, if you had the opportunity to be a designer of, I think it was the Ken Griffey's, how would you design it? How would you tell a story to it? And I showed them how to use Adobe Illustrator. And this was back probably about 2006, 2007, when I was first teaching. And I told them, I said, all right, tell a story. Tell a story in the colors, tell a story with the images, tell a story with the symbols that you put onto the shoes and such. And then that was how I started to have those conversations with the students. That's how I started to make those morale, the connections with the students, so they can see, like, I'm just like them. We have a common interest. We can have conversations about things, but we can also use that conversation about sneakers into other topics that might not only just be about sneakers, but just in life in general. Other subjects in school. So I made it a task for me, being an educator, that always have some kind of sneaker project that gives the students the opportunity to tell their story, tell any kind of story that they want within the shoe design. So I've done it every year that I've been teaching. I'm actually doing it right now with my middle school students, where they're going to do cardboard versions of their sneakers, because I have a laser cutter here. So they're going to use a laser cutter to cut out the shoes to make it a 3D form. But at the same point, I always wanted the students to show what they can do outside of the box if the opportunity was given to them by using sneakers, and building that community of talking about things. Like, because it's like sometimes I had to quiz students. It's like, you like a Jordan sneaker because of how I look, but do you know what he did in those shoes? And I try to educate them a bit about what Jordan did in the Jordan 6s, what Jordan did in the 7s and such, and why some of these sneakers that everybody loves so much, why are they so iconic? Because y'all wearing them when he wasn't playing the game, but I was wearing them when he was playing in the game and such. So just giving that connection with the younger generation, of telling them and teaching them about the actual shoe itself. So it's not always about the color and such. It's all about what is contained into the actual iconic silhouette of that shoe. Why is it so important to us? And have those conversations that build the bond with each other. So that's how everything's been successful for me with an educator, because they can see, they can relate to me, they can question me, they can quiz me about whatever shoes that they like, that they see that's out there. And I use it as a way to get across to my students, because there's times that certain students feel like they don't have a connect with someone that has their interest, but I try to use it as a way to get into to see what they like and kind of pull it out of them. And then hopefully once I pull that out of them, I could get them to get engaged more into their education, not only for my class, but for all the classes, because I truly have high expectations for every student that come in. But I always try to use sneakers as a way to kind of build that bond with the students, so they can see that we all are alike and we can have conversation about whatever it is. But it's all starts from shoes. So that's how I kind of build the community with using sneakers, especially when it comes to being an educator.
Yeah, I would say for me, like I worked in New York for years, and would always wear different, usually 90s basketball or running sneakers, and it always helped start a conversation in a new place with someone or a group of people that I didn't know. So I've always used sneakers in that way to help just kind of help with starting conversations. But social media obviously really opened a lot of doors to build community for sneaker enthusiasts. So I started an account called Nike Stories back in 2014, 2015. And working in New York, I had flexibility to go to any Nike event that I was invited to and really promote the brand. And that account grew up to 160,000 followers, and just opened so many. I met like designers like Wilson Smith and Eric Avar at different events, and then of course met so many other people that had the same passion as me. So yeah, it's just. And then I travel a bit for work now, for my corporate job. And when I am in a different part of the country, I'll just kind of post where I am and people who I know and have been chatting with for years on social media will reach out and we'll try to meet up and grab a cup of coffee or something. So it's just really been a blessing in a lot of ways for me.
Great, great. Thank you all for that. That was great to hear how, this thing that we love so much can just build so many bonds that are, life lasting and open opportunities for us. So that's great that, sneakers has been an avenue and a way for us to kind of grow as people. So it's great to hear that. So my next question is that as an archivist, like I'm always thinking about like the longevity of things and like what things will look like X amount of years in the future. So so what are like some of the ways we can kind of preserve sneaker culture, the conversations about sneakers, sneaker memory, things like that. Drew, I'm gonna hand it off to you. I know that's kind of what your wheelhouse is. So but yeah, what are ways that y'all see that we can preserve sneaker culture, sneaker memory?
So, I mean, obviously, my goal right now is to scan as many of these pages as I can and post them on my feed because there's so much information in here. Just like the name of the shoe, obviously, the description, the pricing, the weight, everything, all the different colors. So that's like super critical for me as an archivist, as someone who studied sociology at college because this information could just disappear off the face of the earth, right? Like that's paper. Like paper could just burn and it's gone. And the shoes obviously are if anyone has a pair, they're falling apart from the 90s at this point. They're just crumbling. So my goal is really to scan everything digitally and preserve it for future generations. My dad worked for Amazon Web Services for years. So I'm working with him on kind of using AI to also read each PDF and upload that information onto the internet so that, and it's not anywhere near close to getting perfected yet, but my hope is that every single word on every single one of these pages will be on the internet at some point so that people can search for that information and people will have it for generations to come.
Yeah, I'll dive in as well. I think, and just to Drew's point, just you preserve sneaker culture by storytelling. Like what makes this shoe more than just a shoe, right? Because if you dig up, again, I don't know if it was the Ken Griffey that he showed, dig that up 100 years from now, however long, and there's no internet, like nobody really knows. It's just, it's just a sneaker. But if there's some way that we can not only have the sneaker, but the story behind the sneaker, what did Ken Griffey do in the MLB? Just attaching that emotional element to the shoe. I think that is how you consistently not only preserve it but continuously make sure sneaker culture stays alive and thrives. Like it just doesn't ever need to just be a shoe that LeBron played basketball in or whatever the case may be, right? Like what is the overall story to that shoe and what makes it iconic? Just like MJ, right? If you find MJ shoes 1,000 years down the line with no backstory, okay, it's a shoe. But if you just know what he did, in the flu game 12, like that just, oh shit, it's not even a shoe now. I want this shoe. I don't even want to wear it. I just want to put it up on a pedestal because of what it means about drive and grit and fighting through obstacles, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, just having that emotional attachment to the sneakers is how we preserve it, for the long game.
I agree wholeheartedly. And Drew, what you're doing, not to sound, over the top, but that's so necessary. I mean, I have probably well over 500 East Bay catalogs myself. So at some point, we want to incorporate them in the Grail Sneaker Museum. That's again, it's always about the stories. And TJ, you said it, Drew, you said it first, and I'm sure Andre would say the same thing. Like, yeah, the sneakers are cool, they're dope, they're fresh, but it's always about the stories that we attach to them. Maybe it's a sneaker that we had, maybe it's a sneaker that we never got, maybe it's an unfortunate situation, maybe a pair of sneakers got stolen out of a locker, or you let your cousin wear them and he ended up beating them so bad you're like just keep them because I don't want them back at this point. That's the real, that's where the rubber meets the road, like the story attached. Every pair of sneakers, I'm sitting in my office right now with racks of sneakers, and there's a story attached to them. Just like, if I hear a particular song from an artist, lately I've been listening, like, I'm a product of hip hop, so of course I'm excited and looking forward to De La Soul's new album. Like, so they just dropped the package the other day, and I was making fun of the package. Why? Because I posted a video of me buying Cafe Bustelo, which I love and I drink every day, and I played De La Soul's The Package, and everyone's like, "Yo!" Even Pete Rock hit me. He's like, "Really? This is what you're doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is what I'm doing because I gotta have fun. Like, if it's not fun, right? It has to be fun." And that's what sneakers are. Sneakers are about fun. They're about holding on to memories. Again, they're timestamps for me. I always tell people, like, listen, I can remember the who, what, why, when, and where I was with a particular pair of sneakers, just like with the song, and then all the connections. Maybe it's a what was going on in that year from a political standpoint, what was going on from a music standpoint, maybe a movie that I was big into. People are like, how do you remember all these sneakers from these movies? And I was like, well, 'cause that's what I do, and that's what we do. Like, we who are into sneakers, we're always watching, right? Like in the Caribbean, I couldn't always, talk, but I could listen and I would hear stories. So that's why, like I always say, the story is always the most important thing. And again, the story is connected to what? The people. So,
I'm just going to continue where everybody else said. It's the stories, and for me, it's also the nostalgic feeling of it, because like being a kid with a single parent, you see a lot of sneakers that come and go and such, and you say to yourself like, oh, I wish I had the money to get those pairs. Like when the Fab Five came out and they had the all black Harachis with the all black socks and stuff, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, I need those. And then just recently, I just noticed that JD Sports dropped the Harachis with the all black and the gray, and I'm like, oh, I need those. And then I'm talking to my wife, I'm like, sorry, I gotta go get these, and it's like, go ahead, because she knows, and for the fact that it's about those particular shoes that bring you back to a place of when at the younger age when you appreciated and love the sneakers and know the stories and know what it's tied to them. It's all about the existence, and because of us, all of us on this panel can remember exactly like the shoes that we saw on a certain individual or a certain player and such like that, and we know what that player did in those shoes or why it was so special, and if we can tell that story to our own kids and our friends and everything else, that's how a lot of the stories and a lot of how the community and all of sneaker culture can easily continue the way it is to this day, because without those stories, no one will ever know. No one will ever know the importance of how some of those sneakers are to some people. I mean, those Harachis was like one of the shoes that I idolized so much because of the uniqueness of them, how they look, the comfort of them, and it was just different. But when I saw the ball heads and the baggy shorts, that was, I was a Michigan Wolverine fan all the way through until Weber left. So it was like, I wanted to wear exactly what they was wearing because it looked cool, it looked hip, and it was in at that time when I was a kid. So it's all about continuing to tell those stories to anybody that's willing to listen, because again, we are the truth tellers. When we go, we want to make sure that some of those legacies of some of those stories continue on for those that we spread it to, because again, it just shows that the education and the knowledge is being passed over to the right individuals that have the same love and appreciation as we do for the sneaker culture itself in entirety. So, yeah. So it goes in a certain sequence, but again, it's all about continuing to tell those stories and show the love and appreciation of the sneakers that we fell in love with.
And I want to just make sure we add, like, what we're doing today, even this is part of keeping that, legacy alive.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're talking about them. At some point, we will not be here in the physical, but this video will live on the internet, and that's why it's so important to document. That's why East Bay, again, what Drew is doing, archiving and actually putting all these, catalogs online is going to be really important for us to tell these stories, to document. I always tell, students, I'm talking about students because I was just with a group of students earlier this week, record video with your grandparents or your parents, your aunties, your uncles, get the recipes. But reason why to record it now, because we have smartphones and you can just set it up and record it so that you have and you can hear their voice and not just you get to see and hear them and actually feel their story and let's just let it run. Just talk and let it run and just document it because that is again that's part of legacy in for us in our family. Like my grandmother lived to be 95, my grandfather lived to be 102, and one of the things I wish I had done was just that, record more conversations, just put my phone up on a little cheap tripod and just let it roll and just talk. What was it like to be born in 1920, move from the British Virgin Islands to the Virgin Islands and travel stateside on the first time? What was it like, electricity? Like, right, you think you would really think about those things. It's amazing to hear them tell their story again in their own words in their own voice. So I encourage everyone to document as much as you can. That's why when I see people taking selfies or shooting video when they're on vacations or whatever, I'm like, yeah, guess what? Hopefully they're backing them up is what my mind goes. Hopefully they're backing them up to like, iCloud or Dropbox or Google Photos or something and then paying for it because, someone can watch that stuff.
Great, thank you all. Yeah, that means a lot. Like for me, like I kind of missed the Jordan wave a little bit. I was a little too young for that. I was born in '95, so by the time I was in the sneakers, it was around like 2002, 2003. But like I remember for me, like athletes were always big for me getting into shoes, but like also sitcoms were huge for me. So like watching reruns of like A Different World and seeing Kadeem Hardison wear the Jordans all the time, or watching Will Smith on Fresh Prince had the Black Metal Files episode one, or even like Martin, I forget what episode it was, but he it was like some type of like dance episode. He had the Diamond Turtles on. You know what I mean? So there's those little connections, man. Just like really kind of media and TV, television, Spike Lee with He Got Game, all that. Had the 13s and the pearls, the phone posits. So just like those little connections is like really really huge for me personally in terms of like evoking memory through what I watch. So how Andre mentioned the Fab Five and the bald heads, baggy clothes, all that. And TJ mentioned, Mike in the flu games, just how these moments create like kind of long lasting memories tied to these figures with sneakers. So that's just dope that we all kind of had a similar type of like entry point into, figures in the shoe. So thank you all for sharing. So my next question is, um, what is the best way for younger folks to get into this industry? Whether they want to design, they want to create, archive, whatever that may be. But like, what, being that you're all in this space in some way, like, what would you recommend for young folks kind of entering in this space?
And I'm going to go before you, TJ, only because I'll say this. Go work either in a retail position or work at a restaurant bar. Because if you can learn customer service skills, and those skills are truly foundational, like they'll take you far in life. Like I worked at Athlete's Foot. I worked at Timberland store. I did retail. Why? Because I liked the product and I wanted to learn more. So figure out what you want to do, but be willing to try different things. Maybe it is retail. Maybe it's working at a thrift store. Maybe it's working, at a shoe cleaning. Like one of the lost arts nowadays is people to repair shoes, like cobblers. Like how many times like I think about again being in the corporate world where I was wearing, be it Allen Edmonds or Johnson and Murphy, and I need to have shoes resoled. It took a while. Luckily in Boston we had a lot of cobblers there, but now they're few and far between. So figure out like, okay, if you're sketching, sneakers, you should be sketching every day. I mean, again, my grandmother lived to be 95 and she used to always kind of implore, encourage me. She's like, anything she didn't say this, but it resonated with me eventually. Anything you want to be good at, you have to be obsessed with it. Again, that ties back to obsessive sneaker disorder. I was always obsessed with sneakers. I had to figure out my entryway, my entry point into the industry. But for young folks nowadays, the entryway, there's so many more, on ramps. You can use retail, you can use design, you can put your portfolio, like you should have your own domain name. I always tell people, buy your domain name. You should own your name online, like whatever. Like I own dwells.com. I don't have it up there right now, but I have it. I bought my daughter's the day she was born. I bought her domain name because who knows what she will do with it. And so that you could put together and present yourself to the world. Talk to people, like literally go to events, network, get to know people, get their phone number, get their email addresses, and then follow up with them and say, hey, listen, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. I tell people I'm still trying to figure that out for me. The more you ask questions, the more information you have, the better decisions you can make. But one of the things I highly recommend is working in retail, working in the restaurant industry, food service, hospitality. You're going to learn, you're going to try new things, you're going to fail fast, but the beauty is you're going to learn because people are going to be like, okay, this person wants to learn, and I'm going to give, I'm going to give them some game, but I also want to pour into them too. So,
No, I love what D said on that. But me, it's like he said, starting with retail, since I am in the retail lane, so I'll speak from that. I think if you are, well, two things, retail and D's talked about fun, sneakers being fun. I think people that would want to be in the retail space of this, right? What else are you interested in outside of sneakers, right? And the reason I say that is, let's say, like for us, for instance, we're into gaming, anime, comic books, right? So there's a strong connection with millions of people when it comes to gaming, comics, and anime. So how can we use that love that they have for that genre, but also introduce them to the sneaker realm, if that makes sense. Like it's it's like, yes, we're preserving, sneaker culture, but how do we also sustain sneaker culture over time? Because what I've noticed just from a retail standpoint is just the millennials, we're getting to a point where it's like, okay, now we have families, we got kids, so we are not spending as much money on sneakers, but how do we convert this new wave of Gen Z, Gen Alpha to be interested in sneakers as well? When we were growing up, it was all MJ, athletes, etc. Now that's not the case due to social media because there's so many different, interests that you can gravitate towards and so many communities that you can gravitate towards outside of your own four walls in your community where you might physically live. So how can you bring that interest and push, bring that interest to the sneaker world while also, again, just having that longevity for sneakers over time? Because again, it needs new life, right? For instance, there's a huge sneaker I almost said it. I almost messed up. I almost talked about a sneaker that's coming out in 26 that I'm not supposed to be talking about. But let's just say, right, there's a great book that, I have a book club and it's fantastic, right? But I want to get this particular book club into sneakers. I want them to even be curious about who MJ was. They already have the love for the books, right? Okay, now how can we do a Harry Potter themed retro 4? This person might not necessarily be into sneakers, but since it's Harry Potter, I'm going to, be at least be interested in this particular retro because it aligns with I'm sorry, I got my office phone going crazy, but it aligns with something that I am interested in. And once you get that thinking, okay, now, okay, who is MJ? Everybody knows MJ, of course, but I'm saying if it's a new sneaker, who is this guy, right? And again, that just onboards just a new class, a new group of people to a space that they wouldn't otherwise even think about because, again, 9 times out of 10, again, with us millennials, it all drives back to just sport. But as we continue to grow forward and move forward, you know, interest is far beyond sports. So how do we tie that into sneaker culture as well? But yeah, long story short, if you want to get into the retail space, whatever your hobbies are, build that community in that specific hobby. And again, just use sneakers to continue to push that hobby forward and impact that community that you're a part of.
What I would say for me is because I'm coming in from a design aspect, and I always wanted to design sneakers, but like at the time when I was trying to get into it, I didn't know where to go with it. So if it wasn't for social media, for me, I wouldn't have had the confidence to try to do it for myself and not just try to get a job and be a designer and such. Because luckily, with a lot of independent designers that's out there that was making a name for themselves on social media, it kind of just gave you an insight of saying like, why does sometimes you feel like you want to make sure that you want to get in the industry, but why don't you try to see if you could do it for yourself? And by doing that, that's how I got into the whole process of like doing mock-ups since I was teaching Photoshop, and I was showing students how to create their own designs. What I was normally doing is like taking other people's designs and mocking it up in the ways that I seen them, so I can get kind of show like my way of looking at things, and then also looking at competitions on social media. There's tons of competitions on social media that, as a designer, if you know the skills of using Adobe and such like that, put yourself into those competitions, and whatever you design, use that as your portfolio to show that you can tell stories on other people's shoes, because the opportunities can present itself for you to design for a couple people. For instance, I did a lot of mock-ups for an independent brand, Saya, and for a lot of the competition that he held, and some of my designs made it to the semifinals and such. It wasn't big, but it gave me the opportunity to really show what I can do and kind of build a community around that as well, and speak to other designers that was in the same realm as me and doing mock-ups and seeing what they do to kind of make their design stand out. And then them turning around, then I said, okay, if these people can do it, I can do it for myself. And then that sparked the whole idea of me getting into doing Alpha Club with my son for the love of the art for him and the love of art for me. It was the best way for me to kind of present my idea and his idea to kind of represent something that we can both come together and create a shoe that's totally different but has a story to tell, and a significant story to tell that some people may not pay attention to or may not know about. So basically, don't sell yourself short. Don't push. Don't put anything to the side saying, nah, it's not for me. You never know. What I say is always constantly, if you have a passion for it, continue to do it. Like whatever artwork, it could be a sketch, drawing, or whatever. If you love drawing shoes and you love doing mock-ups and you love, continue to do it, because you don't know who's out there paying attention. And post it up. Post it up on social media, post it up on your Facebook, post it up on your TikTok. People will appreciate it, and you will build your own community to the point where it's that people is going to be undeniable. They're going to know who you are, and people will start looking for you. So that's from my perspective of how you can definitely put yourself in the position to get around into the industry. Especially you might meet people a couple of ways, because I've known D for a minute. We haven't really talked, but at the same point, I know Sean is like a mentor to me, and D and Sean is all the time working together when it comes to social studies. So it's like it's just a way to make those connections. And if I didn't make those connections, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in right now, just by showing the love of what I do and constantly continue to do it from that day one.
Yeah, I would agree. Working in a sneaker store is a major way to get involved and learn a lot very quickly. I would say one of my biggest regrets in life is not applying to the University of Oregon. So I would say if you are in middle school or high school and thinking about college already, consider applying to University of Oregon, because Nike's out there, Adidas is out there, Hoka has an office there, On has an office there. And then, of course, New England is the other major hub. So Boston has Reebok and Converse and so many other footwear brands in the New England area. And also, yes, go to events, like find out about running clubs, join a running club, pick up basketball leagues, things like that, and be curious about footwear. So, Nike is my favorite brand, but over the years, I've just been super curious about every brand and trying them on and seeing how every shoe fits and learning about the technology, learning about the cushioning, what they're good for, what they're not good for. It's all about being curious about footwear and trying everything if possible.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate all your insights on that. My next question is, what do you think the future of sneaker culture looks like? What obstacles or breakthroughs do you see in the future?
Again, I think just from being in it, I think sneaker culture is more, it'll be more niche focused, and built on, again, because there's so many subcultures due to social media and things like that, that's where real community lives now. So I think that, again, just going back to ourselves, like we're in the gaming space and I mean the gaming and anime space, there's a huge community for that, right? How can we create sneakers for that community? Okay, it might be a guy that or a woman that might be interested in pottery. If she builds a strong enough community in pottery, there's a way that she can dive into the sneaker realm. Is because Nike will come on that, knock at that door and create a clay theme Air Force One or whatever behind them. And you know what I'm saying? So I think that's where sneaker culture is going to go. Because it's not all just about sport now. As you can see with streamers, as you can see with, just so many different vast communities that's out there that these, sneaker giants will lean into, and create moments around just because of the strong community that they built in their own respective space and field. So that's where I see sneaker. And of course, sport is always going to be there, right? Sport is definitely going to always be there. But as youth grow up and just find passions in different things, you'll start seeing more sneakers themed around those moments, as well, to keep the community and sneakers alive.
Yeah, it's ever evolving. That's the beauty of sneaker culture. It's always changing. Nothing remains constant. The target is always moving, and I love that about it because, like, even the fact that we have, I call it, COVID for me was the great reset. It kind of put things in perspective of what was important and what wasn't important. I think it made us all, and the more important thing is it touched all of us. I said no one got out of it unscathed. We all got touched. COVID touched us all. Um, and now with sneaker culture, it changes again. We saw people sitting at home buying sneakers left and right online. And then finally, when things, kind of opened back up, people were excited to go to events, to go and camp out in lines, and again get together in person in real life. I look at what's going on even right now. For example, um, the Avia sneakers that are selling like hotcakes from Walmart, like that. I, I always I always go down the sneaker footwear aisle at Walmart, right? I always pay attention, even at Target. I always do that. So the fact that these sneakers, which again, shout out to Ryan, Ryan Holler, like I know Ryan who designed that sneaker, this $24.98. It's an amazing sneaker. And Avia, again, a legacy brand, right? Like I could think of the cantilevers. And again, the stories associated with it. And what are people doing now? I mean, the big breaking news like yesterday was the fact of Under Armour and Steph Curry parting ways. Like what does that mean now for Steph Curry? Is he able to keep his brand or is he going to go do his own thing? Is he going to sign with somebody else? Like, so it's always changing, the culture is about the people though. We're like everyone on this panel said before, we're introducing the culture to the younger generation, and it's going to keep going. It's going to keep going in perpetuity. We hope, as long as there's human beings, there's people that need sneakers. There's always going to be people that want to look good and feel good, so they're going to step out with maybe it's a Air Jordan, maybe it's a Brooks, maybe it's a New Balance. Who knows? It may be a brand that not many people know from India called Gully Labs, where again, the cultural importance of what footwear diversity truly means. Like this great stuff coming out of South Africa right now. There's brands that again are like starting to bubble and even haven't even really touched the US shores yet, but just that's just it. Be it, parts of the world now are getting more and more into sneaker culture, like I can't tell you how many Indian weddings I've been to where people are wearing sneakers and they again fabrics, color, materials, and they're making them their own. So that's a beautiful thing. So that's where I see sneaker culture going. I think if anything, people are tapping more into their cultural heritage and showing it more in footwear. I mean, look at what Kyrie Irving has done with Anta, right? Um, we're going to see more of that. I don't know this for sure. I'm not speaking from like I know this for sure, but I predict we're going to see more of that in 2026 and beyond.
Um, I think with the way the culture is going, and I can easily see it because I'm with a lot of middle school students since I teach in the middle school, and it's like they really don't have a clear sense of just like hype beast sneakers like we used to, you know. They just know the sneakers because of what they see and what they know of and what they're used to seeing all the time. Like for instance, lately I've been wearing nothing but Sauconys. And the thing is, kids would look at me and was like, "What are those?" Like I'm wearing my J Tips Poison Ivies right now because they're brand new. They just came out of Complex Con, and and I'm a great friend of J Tips. Known J Tips when he was first getting in, when he was actually working at Foot Locker selling sneakers and such. So that's how far back I go with him. But just seeing like someone like him and really introducing new things to some people that may not never even heard of who he is or the brand of Saucony and such, but just introducing new shoes to a new culture and such, and really just showing that it's not always about the major labels and that we already see every day. There's tons of other brands that's out there, independent brands, major brands that's not major to everyone else, but major to us, that because we know they've been around for so long. But it's just that's what I'm basically focusing into, because I don't want them to be one track and just focus on one brand. It's all about trying to share exactly that there's a multitude of different brands out there that has different appeal, different feeling, different comfort. I mean, I'm excited for Griselda artists uh Saucony coming up. Yes, like I already saw it. I said, listen, if y'all could get a sample in a size 12, send it down to Florida if possible, because I love the colorway. But that's who I am. I love colors, and a lot of kids really just want to pay attention to like what stays true to them and what they like and such. Like I've had students coming up to me and ask questions about any kind of shoe, and they want to test my knowledge onto it, which is great because it gives me to the point to talk about something to a younger generation and get them really intrigued to what I know, and we can share knowledge because they know a couple of things that I don't know. But like TJ was saying, was like, if we start to focus into certain niche, like the gaming and the social media, the creative, because a lot of times that's who they're watching most of the time. That's who, I mean, as popular as Kai Cenat is, and with the deal that he had with Nike and such like that, people wanted to get the sneaker because of that connection that he had with Nike and everything, or any kind of like clothing that these streamers get. If they see it on them, they want to get it because those are the celebrities in this generation right now. So it's just trying to find a way to make those connections for the younger generation to really hone into the sneaker culture more and have a more appreciation is what we would need to kind of make it grow even further in that sense. But like for me, I just want to like to introduce new things to my students because I don't want them to feel like there's only one brand that stands out from everyone else. Try out some other brands because you never know what you might find. Like to the fact that some of the kids know about the New Balance shoes and such, but I don't see a lot of them wearing it. But I wear it, and they see me wearing the retro basketball 550s, and so they was like, "What are those? Like these are classics. These were the original basketball sneakers that New Balance had that players was actually wearing in the NBA." So it's just like trying to introduce them to a lot of different things that they don't normally know about, but just giving them the opportunity to take a risk. Because I like to say risk takers, because if you're not a risk taker, then what are you really trying to find out and do with your life? Take a risk because you never know what the opportunity may present yourself if you take that risk. It may be a good one, it may be a bad one, but you can't say you don't know what the outcome would be unless you take the risk to do it. So that's what I'm trying to instill into the students that I have every day. So and especially try to let them try new things, because sometimes people are scared to try new things, but I'm trying to share that it's okay to try new things.
I'll just say really quick. I think like the days of buying every sneaker and just collecting and hoarding everything is probably going to be over. I have like about 150 pairs up in my attic, and my 9-year-old daughter came up and she thinks I'm like a loser for having so many shoes. She has like 2 pairs of sneakers, and one of them is a pair of Panda Dunks. Sorry, I'm getting a call.
Uh-oh.
I think Drew got cut off, but we're at time anyway. I'd like to thank everybody who came. Thank you, my panelists, Drew Hamill, Andre Akud II, TJ Bennett, and D Wells for their expertise, knowledge, and participation in this conversation. I'm Sean Payne, the moderator and creator of Soul Stories, and thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you.